All right. What's your last name?
Hernandez.
Roberto Hernandez. Can you briefly tell me about the struggles that the mission community is going through during the COVID-19 pandemic? We're now in the purple tier.
Yeah, so from the very beginning, the mission has been ground zero in San Francisco and in the Bay Area for COVID. And part of the reason is that a lot of the people who are from this community, who are Latinos specifically, weren't able to shelter in place because they're the frontline workers. And so they've been catching the virus. And second of all is that the hardship of losing your job has created food inequity in this community. And now that we're into this 7 months and it's purple again, people are 6 months behind in their rents because they haven't been able to work or because they're sick. And that has created a lot of frustration and anxiety on the individual from our community. And our people do not have, they're not homeowners. Most of them are minimum wage earners, and so they don't have retirement money, they don't have savings accounts or property that they own that they could sell or borrow against. And so the economic impact, the health impact, and the mental health impact that it's having on our community is huge.
Let's see now. Concerning the people who have lost their jobs, are you also talking about the minimum wage earners? Because I understand that a lot of the essential workers are minimum wage earners, such as grocery clerks, a lot of retail stores are remaining open. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But even a lot of the minimum wage workers have lost their jobs. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you're a babysitter, child care provider, and you go to somebody's house to take care of their child, right? Well, that person is sheltering in place at home, so they don't need you to come take care of their child. So that's one example of people who no longer have an income. Then you have the amount of restaurants that have shut down. You know, our people are the waiters, they're the bus boys, the cooks, the back help for the chefs. Although a lot of restaurants have closed permanently. And what we're seeing is a trend that you have restaurants that closed the first go round, then in May, after Memorial Day weekend, more closed. After July 4th, more restaurants closed. And I will assume that with this purple, there's going to be those restaurants that reopen. A lot of them are going to close down.
Oh, I see. Have you seen a lot more need in the community very recently? I want to know if anything has changed in the community's needs given the surge in cases as we have went from the yellow tier back up to purple. Have you noticed a change in the past month or so, or things have generally been the same in terms of people's needs for food and coming here?
So yeah, there's been a huge change. So when the first week of May, we had 500 families. If you look at it, steadily has increased. Now we have 7,000 plus families that we provide groceries every week.
Let's see. I'm curious a little bit about the demographics. I do see a fair amount of immigrants, possibly from Vietnam or southern China, what kind of work do they do? Do they like work at supermarkets, for example? What kind of work do they do? Just curious. Do they work at like hair salons, maybe?
I don't. I know the Latino, but I don't know that any.
Okay. In the Latino community, you have a lot of people who work in trades. Is that correct?
For example, a lot of Latinos work in the hotels. When the hotels shut down, right? The janitors, the maids, the dishwashers. I mean, every employee within the hotel industry landed up here.
What about the trades? You know, like painting, welding, cement masonry. Are a lot of them still working? A lot
of the
trades people are still working.
A lot of trade workers are still working because there's still a lot of building that's going on, especially in San Francisco. The unfortunate problem with those trade workers, a lot of them got COVID because they're out in the open, you know.
I see. So would you be the president of the Mission Food Hub? Is that your title?
No, I'm the founder and the director of the Mission Food Hub.
I see. I'm curious on how the nonprofit works. How did you start? I mean, very briefly. I know it's going to be a long story, but very briefly, can you describe how the nonprofit receives its funding, how you got started, and what inspired you to do it?
So our organization, CANA, C-A-N-A, produces the annual Carnival San Francisco Parade and Festival. And because of my background in health, I served on the board of directors for the Mission Neighborhood Health Center for over 10 years. In those 10 years, I learned a lot about health. I learned about COVID and its impact around the world in December of last year from a doctor that's a good friend of mine. And I asked in this meeting, I said at the very end, when they were talking about the impact it was going to have around the world, I asked, what is our government here in the U.S., do they know about it? They said yes. And I said, what is the plan? And they said, there is no plan. The President of the United States is ignoring this. So there is no plan. So I knew early on that we were in trouble, that this was going to get really bad. So by March, I started getting people that calling me that I knew, saying I lost my job, and people crying. And I said, well, how could I help you? What's the number one thing you need help with right now? They go, I need food for my family. So I started giving out food out of my house, but it grew so fast that I opened up my garage and I started buying 50 pounds of rice, 50 pounds of beans, and whatnot, and started making grocery bags because it's cheaper to buy by the 50 pounds. And I had other people helping me, but the need grew too fast for us to keep up. So I got this space, 701 Alabama, which belongs to a nonprofit organization, Mission Language and Vocational School. And they donated the space to me. So in May, I started here with 500 families once a week, and then now we're 3 days a week serving over 7,000 families. So our nonprofit organization that does this annual parade and festival, we decided as an organization to serve our community by starting the Mission Food Hub. And we have volunteers that help us with the parade and festival every year, so they helped in the beginning. Now 70% of the people who volunteer are people who used to be in the lines. And so we, as an organization for the Mission Food Hub, ask people to make donations and then ask people to, companies to donate food. So between the donations of food and the cash donations, we're able to buy food for our families who are in need at this time.
So the Mission Food Hub is very new. It's only about a year old, right?
Less.
Interesting. How did you get your voice heard throughout the community? The organization that supports you raised awareness about it, right?
Well, let me tell you, it's the word spread very fast. And I find we never put out one flyer. Didn't need to. It's just people are hungry, people need food, and the word spread. So it's all word of mouth.
You also have a website. Did you hire any software engineers to help with that?
No, we actually got everything we do is done by volunteers. So
So you had some people who knew programming to help you do that.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet.
yeah. If Felicia, she was a volunteer. She's a volunteer here. She was, helping bag groceries. And one day she came up to me and she goes, "Hey," she goes, I could do a website." She goes, "That's what she goes, "I work in tech." And she goes, "I could build a website." I said, "Okay." And she built a website for us.
Oh, her name is Alicia?
Felicia.
Oh, last name?
Um,
That doesn't matter, it's okay. Alright, this is very sweet. I'll use this for my piece about San Francisco entering the purple tier. Thank you very much for your time.
all right. Thank you. Bye-bye.